Hello everyone, and a very warm welcome to today's webinar, which is all about sending pension data in Sage 50 Payroll. My name is Sarah and I'm joined by my colleague Duncan, who is ready and waiting in the background to answer your questions. And remember, today is part of our Pensions Discovery 2025 badge series. So if you attend at least 5 sessions plus a quiz, you will earn your very own badge. But we will talk a bit more about that towards the end of the session. So this is what we'll be covering in today's session. So we'll start with an introduction to pension data exchange. So what it is and how it allows you to send pension data directly to the supported providers. Next, we'll walk you through the setup process. So we'll use Nest as an example so you can see exactly how it works. We'll show you a little bit on using PDX to import pension updates, but we will follow that by a video demo of sending enrolment and contribution files over to your provider as well. I'll then move on to some top troubleshooting tips to help you out if you run into any issues. And then for those of you that can't use pension data exchange because your provider might not be supported, I will cover an alternative method, which is exporting CSV files using our bespoke reports. And these do work with a full range of pension providers as well. We'll finish things off, as always, by looking through some additional support options, and we'll tell you a bit more about our pensions badge as well. So that's what we've got lined up. But before we dive into the introduction, I do want to start with a quick poll, and I'll launch that on your screen now. So you just want to select your answer and then hit submit. I'll give you around a minute or so just to submit that through. The question is, who is your pension provider at the moment? So you'll see 4 options there. We've got Nest, the People's Pension, Smart Pension, or last option is other if it's none of the above. Now I've highlighted those 3 because they're the pension providers currently supported by Pension Data Exchange. But if your provider isn't listed, don't worry. We do have some alternative options that we'll be exploring later on. So I'll just give you a few more moments to respond to that. Then we'll have a look and see what people have answered. Fab, so it looks like most of you have voted on that now. I'll just close that down and let's take a little look, see what we've got back. So it looks like we have a bit of a split there. So we do have a lot of people using supported providers, so Nest, People's Pension or Smart. Now we do have a good chunk that are saying other, so that don't fall into those categories. But like I said, at the end of the webinar, I will be running through other ways to send pension data. So we do have a whole load of reports that have been designed for those alternative providers that you can still use to speed up your process as well. So with that said, let's get started. So I want to move on and talk about Pension Data Exchange, or PDX for short. Now, first thing we want to look at is actually setting up PDX. So PDX is a simple way to send pension data directly to supported providers. Now, the big advantage of this, you don't need to log into a provider portal separately or upload your files manually. So it's a direct connection, this one. So it's similar to how you would submit your real-time information over a HMRC. Now, to use PDX, you'll need to set it up in your software, and you will need to be with one of the supported providers as well. So that is Nest, the People's Pension, or Smart Pension. So in today's demo, I will show you the setup process for Nest, as that's one of the most popular providers out there. But the steps are very similar for other providers. And we do, of course, have detailed support articles that will walk you through each setup for each provider step by step. So make sure to get the handout downloaded if you haven't already. That will include a lot of the links that you'll need. But like I said, today we will focus on Nest. But again, if you're not with one of these providers, don't worry. We still have a lot of different options when it comes to other providers. So our report design team does design those bespoke reports for you to upload them as well. But we will look at that towards the end of the session. So before you can actually set up PDX, there are a few things that you will need in place. So first, you want to make sure that you have the pensions module with PDX actually activated. You'll also need to be able to log into a Sage account with an email address and password, so you'll need to have that existing account. But don't worry if you don't have one, you can also create it during the setup process. Now remember, you'll also need to have one of the eligible providers. So we'll be using Nest today. But then you'll also need the login details for your provider's portal, as those will be required for setup to make the connection between the two different portals. And for those using Nest, it is very important, and this is a big one that catches people out. So if you're using Nest, you do want to make sure your employee groups align with tax periods. So weekly groups should match with tax weekly on Nest, and monthly groups should match with tax monthly. And that is something that you need to configure on Nest portal. So my advice would be, before going and setting your PDX up, it's just logging into Nest, having a look at your group payment frequencies. If they say tax weekly or tax monthly, then you're good to go. If they only say weekly or monthly, then you will want to contact Nest and get them to get you set up on the correct frequency. Because if it's not, it won't work. So you might want to check if PDX is actually available to you. And to do that, you can go to your pension module settings. If you see the option to actually set up pension data exchange, it'll be enabled. Or if you get options to go to management center, that would indicate that you do have pension data exchange. Now, if you don't see that option, don't worry. All you want to do is give our support team a call and they can request to get it activated. It isn't of any additional cost or anything like that. It is just 2 types of pensions module that you can have. But if you don't have that option there, give them a call and they'll be able to get that sorted out. So next thing I want to do is I'm going to walk you through the setup process for pension data exchange. Now, I will be playing a short video for this, and I will just be talking through the steps in the video. So bear with me 2 seconds. I will just get that up now. And this is going to walk us through the setup process. So when it comes to setting up this one is registering and setting up pension data exchange. Second one is signing in and updating your Sage 50 payroll. Now, the first step is where you're going to need those logins to your Sage account. Second one will just be kind of connecting the dots and matching things up from there. Before you start, you do want to make sure you have your account details and your pension provider login details as well. Now, to begin, you would go to your company tasks and go into pension module settings. And then what you can do, you can see we normally have PDX because we have that option to set up pension data exchange. Now, when I click into that option, you'll see that this welcome screen, and that will confirm the compatible providers. So you can see Nest, Smart, and the People's Pension on there. So you can do this if you use any one of those providers. Now, after that, you'll click Next in the Setup Wizard and you'll come to these 2 key steps that relate to what we did before. So we'll click Do It Now on step number 1. We want to enter our Sage account details at this stage. Now remember, if you don't have one, you can create one at this point. And you'll also set up authentication method if you need to, or you might already have 2-factor authentication in place. You'll then log into the Management Centre and you'll confirm the company that you're going to onboard. So it'll automatically pull through your company name. And you'll just press continue on that and you will land on this page here. So what this is the Pension Data Exchange Management Centre. So you've got a few tabs in there. So a welcome screen, you've got an option to manage pension accounts and manage access as well. Now it's in here where we'll actually be adding our pension account. For this demo, we'll go to manage pension accounts. And like I mentioned earlier, we will be choose a nest. So we'll go with that. You can put a description of the account in there. That can be anything that you want it to be, just something easy identifiable. And you want to put your Nest employer ID. And this will be, you want this to be matching with what's on Nest's website. Now you'll also enter a username and password, but I do want to stress at this point, this is the username and password that you use to log into Nest or whatever pension provider that you're setting it up for. I'll pop in my Nest username and Nest password. And once you're happy, you'll click Save. And you can see that is now connecting up to my Nest account. So it will process for a little bit just while it makes a connection. If there are any errors at this point, so say for example you've entered the wrong login details or something like that, then it would tell you, so it would come up with a little red box and give you a bit more information on why there's been a problem. Now for us, it has retrieved our scheme details successfully, but we still want to assign a company that is going to relate to this scheme. I'm going to click on that. You can see I'll tick to link my company. Now, if I had been doing my pension data manually previously, you'll notice there's also a box to put in a date of the last successful submission. And that is just because you don't want it to pull through all of your historical data. So if it is an existing company with, historical data in there, then just make sure to pop a date in just to make sure it kind of picks up from where it left off, rather than retrieving a load of historical entries. I'm just going to OK on that. Now I'm going to link the same company to my second scheme because I do have 2 schemes in this payroll. And press OK. So that is our company linked. So that is my step 1 done. So I can go and tick the box for step 1. That is step 1 all completed. Now the second step is signing in and updating the payroll side of things. So I'm going to click Do It Now on step 2. And this will go back into payroll. Now this will load a login screen, and this is the login that you have used to log into the management centre that you want to enter at this point. And this is going to retrieve your schemes from the Pension Data Exchange so you can then match them up to your payroll schemes. So you can see when I log in, retrieve those schemes from the Management Centre. See, they'll appear in the box in the top left. So I'm going to tick the scheme from the Management Centre and I'm going to match that to my scheme in payroll over on the right. Now you'll notice at this point there's a little warning sign that appears. That's nothing to worry about. It's just if the description is different to what has came through from Nest. So you can see that the description from Nest is weekly pay, but the one in Payroll is just Nest pension. Nothing to worry about. The system will automatically change what it needs to, so everything is all matching up. But always good to double check and review, make sure it's the right information. What you would then do is you would click on Match Scheme. It will move to the bottom left once matched. And then I'm just going to repeat that for my second scheme. Now they're actually matched to the same scheme in Payroll. So once I've matched that, I'll just click Next. And I will have to choose a default scheme. So I'm just going to choose my weekly as that's the most common one. And then I'm going to hit Save. Now, it will prompt you to take a backup at this point. Would definitely strongly recommend you doing so because you are making changes with pensions. If anything needs to be corrected, it just means you're always going to have a point to go back to. I'm just going to take my backup there. Backup's all done. So what I can do now is click Finish and tick off my step number 2 as being completed. You can see that's now step number 2 all done and dusted, and I can now click Finish. I've completed my setup of the pension data exchange. And what you can see now is you can see that there's some further options in the management centre. So it looks a little bit different. Instead of saying setup, it says open the management centre or manage match schemes. So once the setup is complete, you'll see those options will look different. I'm just going to save those. And I've now completed my 2 steps of setting up the pension data exchange so I can send it directly to my provider. So that is the setup of pension data exchange. Now I do just want to run through a little bit of a recap of that. So I just want to summarise the steps that we've just went through in the video there. So we started in pension module settings and we selected set up pension data exchange. We then signed in with our Sage account, which links your payroll to the pension data exchange management centre. From there, we registered the company and we added our pension provider by logging in with the provider's details, remember. And then once connected, the provider's pension schemes were then pulled in to the management centre. We then assigned each scheme to the correct company in payroll, so both going to the same company. And then finally, we match those schemes to the ones that we have set up in our Sage 50 payroll. And then that was it. PDX is now ready to send and receive pension data directly. But remember, full step-by-step guides are available in our help centre and the links in the handouts. I know we've looked at Nest today, is very similar for other providers, but definitely check out the help centre for that. So now that it's set up, we are ready to start using PDX. So let's have a little look at how it fits into your payroll process. So there are 2 parts to using pension data exchange. First, you do have the option to import pension updates for any schemes connected via PDX. So that's a pre-update task. So you'll usually do it at the start of a pay run. And if your provider does support it, it can include things like opt-out information or scheme changes. Now, we'll move on to the main function, which would be sending pension data to your provider. Now, this is a post-update task. So you'll do it after updating your records. And at this stage, enrolment details and contribution amounts are sent directly to your provider. So no manual uploads required with PDX. So it really does speed up the process. Now, I do want to talk briefly about important pension updates. Like, I don't have a live demo for this one, but I have again included a link to our support guide in the handout. But just to give you a bit of an overview, so when you open the import screen, you'll see 4 tabs across the top. And if there's any data available to import, it will appear under the Import Data tab. From here, you can bring in details like opt-out dates, refund amounts, which will automatically populate in your pension assessment screen. You can still enter opt-out details manually if you prefer, just like we showed you in the pension assessment webinar yesterday. Another useful feature is syncing any changes to your scheme settings. For example, if you're with Nest and you've added new groups, you'll be alerted if those groups need to be matched to a pension scheme in Sage. So this here is your pre-update task. So this is something that you do before running your payroll to make sure everything is up to date. But I do want to move on to probably the key point of today's webinar, which is actually sending the pension data. So once you've done that, you've run your pension assessment, you've updated your records, that's the point we're at where we want to send pension data. So next, I do want to look at how to send pension data using Pension Data Exchange. Again, I do have a short video to play to guide you through the process. So do bear with me again 2 seconds. And I will get that up on screen now. So when it comes to sending pension data, it's a bit of a flow to the process. So you've got 3 things here. You've got the pension assessment, updating records, and then finally actually sending your pension data directly to the provider. So I do want to take a look at those 3 key steps in a bit more detail. First thing you would do is run your pension assessment. So this is after entering payments, and this is going to enrol any new starters or new members, changes in eligibility. And of course, you can record any opt-ins, opt-outs and postponements. So you can see here in our pension assessment, we have all our employees flagged. So a couple non-eligible there, but we do have 3 people that have been automatically enrolled in our assessment. We've done that after entering our payments so the assessment can work accordingly. Once the pension assessment is done, you've done your pre-update reports, you then want to move on to the next step, which is updating the records. So just like any other pay run, you want to lock those figures in so the information is saved historically. So let's run through the update records process now. And that's going to lock in all of our pay details and our pension information as well. So that's really important because if we don't do this, there'll be nothing that pulls through when we do come to send pension data. So last updated date is done. We're now ready to move on to the final step, which is sending our pension data. So from your payroll tasks, you want to go down to select send pension data. As you can see just after the FPS adjustment there. And when you first go into this option, this will connect to Pension Data Exchange and retrieve the details to submit. So you can see it's having a little think about it there. Now, once this loads, it will load contribution files, but also enrolment files. So you can see a bit of a mix there of the 2 files that will get sent across. So we've got a couple contributions and some enrolments as well. Now notice that enrolments will say NA when it comes to amounts. That's just because that's what the contribution files are there for. Totally normal for it to do that. So that does throw some people off. Now we've got some red boxes in there. So before you can actually submit this, you do need to assign a group and a payment source, but these will pull through from your management centre. If we just make that a bit bigger, you can see you can assign them individually from the drop downs. Or if you want to do it in bulk, you can tick the box and just select those bottom options there. You can see once those are selected, the submit option then does become available to use. And you can see there is actually a little tick box in here. So if you do prefer to upload a file, you can tick to manually upload the CSV file instead rather than sending directly. So you do have a lot of flexibility around the options that you have. But in this demo, we are going to submit it directly to Nest. Now that we've got our group and payment source selected, going to get that submitted directly across to our pension provider. Now, you can see after the submission, it moves into the awaiting confirmation tab just whilst the provider processes the request. Now, just a word of warning, it can take up to 90 minutes for them to do that, but we do have refresh options, and you can always close out of this window and check back later. So you can see just above awaiting confirmation, we have a little refresh option. But again, if it is a busier period, Nest might take a bit longer. So they do have up to the 90 minutes. So you can always close out and check back later. Now, if you get an error message like this, it means that the information is still being transmitted and checked by Nest. So I can leave that in awaiting confirmation for now. Feel free, if it is taking a bit longer, to again close out and check back. So you can crack on with other things whilst you wait for this to clear. Now I'm going to check one last time, and this is looking a bit better. I haven't got the pop-up that I got before. So it might just take a little while longer if it has been processed, whilst the information moves either into the history tab or into the errors tab if there's been any issues. You can see that's just retrieving the information there. But good news is it's moved into the history tab. So no errors with that submission. And I can click on my history tab and see the record of what has been submitted directly to Nest. So you can see I've got my enrolments and I've got my contributions as well. So those will have been submitted across to the Nest portal. Only thing I have to do now is log into Nest and confirm those figures and pay the amount over. So that's it for actually sending pension data through the pension data exchange. So once you've set it up and done that first submission, the process does become a lot quicker because your groups and your sources will also stay assigned as well. So it'll remember that for next time round. I do just want to recap that. So we've run our pension assessment. We've updated our records to lock those figures in. And once we updated our records, we came into our SEM pension data screen. We've assigned a group and a payment source, which has been pulled through from the management centre. And in this screen, we have seen our pension contributions and our pension enrolments that we've then submitted directly across to Nest. Just a note, if you do process any opt-out requests, you will also receive cancellation files in here as well. So there are 3 different kinds of files that you can see in this screen. Now, contributions will have an amount attached to it, but cancellations and enrolments will have that not applicable against it. And that's just because they don't have a value attached to it. They are just there to let Nest know, or your pension provider know, if someone is being enrolled or if they've opted out of the scheme. But as always, some further guidance linked on the slides there. So I do want to run through some handy troubleshooting tips as well, if you do run into any issues when setting up or sending your pension data. So just 4 top tips here. Top tip number 1 is check your processing date in payroll. So you just want to make sure it matches the pay date that you're submitting to your provider. If it's a wrong date, you might come across an error message saying no data to export. So if you do come across that error, definitely a good starting point is just to double check your processing date. Now, next thing is for Nest users, if you submit your pension data and you might get an error back, or even when you're setting up pension data and you're getting an error in the management centre, do keep an eye out for any date-related errors. So you want to check your pension groups on the Nest portal aligned to tax periods, not calendar months. So I did touch on this earlier, but I would definitely check before you set up pension data exchange. They do need to be on tax weekly or tax monthly to match the payroll, as payroll will always work in tax periods. But if you do check Nest and you notice that they're not aligned to the tax periods, then just give Nest a call or have a look on their help centre. They do have guidance on how to update that if needed. Now, next thing is check and refresh the management centre. So if you find an error message in there, you can hover over it and it'll give you next steps. So you can get to your management centre from your pension module settings, open the management centre, and you're going to look out for any of those red boxes. If there isn't any there and you're still having problems, just highlight your scheme and click the little refresh icon up at the top. And that will reconnect to the provider, because if there is any new issues, it will tell you, and it'll tell you the error message and how to resolve as well. And last but definitely not least, when it comes to using PDX, do take a note of any specific error messages. So if you see an error, note it down, search it on our help centre. 9 times out of 10, there is going to be a step-by-step solution on there. So we have plenty of articles for common issues. And worst case, if you can't find an answer, our support team is always there to help out as well. So that is troubleshooting covered. Next, I do want to take a look at other ways to send pension data if you're not using PDX, or you might just have a provider that isn't supported. So you can still send pension data manually by logging into your pension provider's portal, and some people might even key in the details. But if you have a larger payroll and you're doing it every week or every month, it is going to be much easier to export a CSV file. So there are 2 ways to do this. First, there is the original send pension data option, which only deals with CSV export. So this existed before pension data exchange, and it is still available on some licenses. So you can see it's Nest, the People's Pension, and Now. So you can create the CSV files, check which ones have been accepted and rejected, but you still do have that manual upload. Now, if you're seeing this older view, but want to use PDX like we looked at earlier, just contact our support team and they'll be able to enable that feature for you. So that's one way of doing it. Now, if you're not with one of the support providers, the most common way to send pension data is by using the automatic enrolment reports that are included in your pensions module license. So we do actually have a dedicated report design team that creates customized reports for a whole load of different pension providers. Now, these reports make it easy to generate the CSV files that you need to upload directly to the pension provider's portal. So some really handy links on the handouts here, especially on how to access them as well. Now, a really handy tool is the pension checker tool. So this helps you access the correct reports for your pension provider. Here's a little bit on how it works. So you would enter your account number and serial number in the pension checker tool just to confirm that you have a pensions module license, because you do need the license to get access to these bespoke reports. Next, you would select the CSV report and choose your provider. And then you're finally redirected to the support guide with all the links for the reports available for your provider. Now, I won't go through multiple providers today, but to give you a bit of an example, I have downloaded some reports for Aviva. So let's bring the slides down and take a little look on how you can create CSV files using these reports. So I'm just going to bring the slides down. I do want to show you the guide I mentioned earlier. So this is the pension checker tool. Now I've already entered my license details up here and checked my license. So you can see it will give you the option to kind of go through the PDX setup with these ones. But if you do need a CSV report instead, oh, bear with me 2 seconds. Let me just get that back up. If you do want a CSV report instead, you can see we have a whole load of reports for different pension providers. So don't worry if you can't see your pension provider on this list. If you do have the pensions module, we can always send off a request to create a new report. You would just want to have a template of what the pension provider wants. So if I click Aviva, press go, you can see it is now taken me to the available reports. So in the interest of quickness with this one, I have already downloaded the reports. So I have already run my pension assessment for November, but I'll just give you a little look at what that looks like in this payroll. When the assessment loads. So you can see in this payroll, I've got 3 employees that are being automatically enrolled. You can see all being enrolled in November. And I've got plenty other employees making contributions as well. Now I'm just going to kind of fast forward with this one and update records just to lock those figures in. And instead of going to send pension data, instead I'm going to go into my reports option above my employee list. And when you download these reports, they will always be put into the user-defined folder. So if I go into that folder now, you can see I have my automatic enrolment report for joiners and a payment file as well. Now, the way you run these reports, remember we had some enrolments in November, is you want to report it to Excel. So I'm going to click on that option. I'm going to change my criteria to this month. And same for my joint pension scheme date. So I'm going to press OK. See, it takes a moment to think about that. It looks like I'm having a couple of options, a couple of issues there. I'm just going to try that from my reports again. I'm going to do my processing date for this calendar month. And my joint scheme date as well. So once that has loaded, looks like I'm having some technical issues with Excel here. Bear with me 2 seconds, everyone. Just going to try closing Excel down and trying that again. Let's give the payment file a go. So again, I'm going to choose this month. And remember, we did have a lot of pension contributions for this month. Press OK in that one. There we go, that's looking a bit better. So if we just maximize that, you can see I now have a contribution file for my month of November. Now, what you want to do before you upload this directly to the pension provider portal is you would just save this file. Now, I have a folder called pension files, so I'm just going to save mine there. And you can see you want to save it as a CSV file. Now, if you save it as a CSV file, that just means that you can upload it directly to the provider. Now, I know we had some issues just exporting the joiners report there with Excel, but it would be exactly the same process as the contribution file. So just report to Excel, pop your dates in, and save it as a CSV, delimited file, and just call it something really clear like pensions November. So that's all saved. So what I can do now is I can now go to my pension provider portal and upload that directly for my contribution. So definitely handy if you have a larger payroll. Still going to save you some time, even if you can't submit it directly. And remember, if you don't see your pension provider in the pension checker tool, just get in touch with our support team and you can request a new report, providing you've got the pensions module on there. Absolutely fine for us to get that sorted with the report designers. So that brings us to the end of today's webinar. I do want to wrap things up by running through some further support. So as you know, we have our Pensions Discovery Badge. So today's webinar is part of that series. But to tell you more about the series, I do just want to play a short video from our colleague Matt, who will tell you a bit more all about getting your digital badge. So I'll just get that up now.
Get ready to earn your Pension Discovery Badge with Sage 50 Payroll. Join us for our fantastic new webinar series where you'll learn everything you need to know about pensions to get you ready to confidently process pensions for your employees. With 7 live sessions and a fun learning quiz in the last session. Whether you're new to pensions or a dab hand, we have something for everyone. Here is what we've got lined up for you. Make a strong start to your pension processing with foundational knowledge on the basics of pensions and salary sacrifice pensions in Sage 50 Payroll. Explore how pension contributions are calculated and how your employees are assessed for automatic enrolment. We'll also take you through our 3 most popular sessions: navigating enrolment, getting started with pensions module, and using pensions data exchange to send your pension data to your provider with ease. And lastly, backed by popular demand, test your knowledge with our Pensions Discovery Quiz to see what you've learned across the sessions. Now, how do you get your hands on your Pensions Discovery Digital Badge? Simply attend 5 out of 7 of the live sessions and our quiz to earn your badge. And don't forget, you get free access to our new Accredible portal to manage your badges, so you can quickly and easily share your badge on socials for everyone to see. Don't miss out. Secure your spot and join us for an unforgettable learning experience by signing up at sage.co.uk/webinars. We'll see you there.
So that is a bit from Matt all about the Pension Discovery series. So we do have plenty more sessions coming up. Don't worry if you have missed out of any of the ones that have happened already. We are running these sessions twice, so still got a chance to get signed up if you haven't already. We want to shout out the Help Centre. So you can access that by clicking on the help icon next to your reports in Sage 50 Payroll, or you can access it via the web just by going to sage.co.uk/help. So we've got our technical support guides on there. We've got our recorded on-demand webinars on there and info on how to get in touch with the support team if you need to. Sage University is a really great resource as well. So it can do anything from bite-sized bits of learning to full certification. So you really can do it all at your own pace. Totally free to set up an account. So just go to sageu.com, set up your free account and explore. Hi again, everyone. I really hope you've all enjoyed today's session. Doesn't look like there's any further questions coming through, so I will go ahead and close the session down in the next minute or so. As you exit, as I mentioned earlier, you will see a short survey. If you please take a moment to fill that out, your feedback is really valuable to us. So love to hear what you thought, what worked well, anything that could be improved, so we can keep making these even better for you. You will also get a follow-up email later today. It will have a link to today's webinar recording on there and info on how to register for future sessions. But thanks again from me and Duncan for joining us today, and hopefully we will see you again soon. It is bye for now.